We want to take now a minute and do a short meditation. As I've said before, everybody comes into the room with their energy going all which way, this way and that way and every way. And so when we come in here and we sit down and we take a few minutes and pull ourselves into a meditative state and listen to the music, it's like if you have a plate with steel shavings on it and you run a magnet underneath it and they all kind of line up and go the same way. That's kind of what happens to the energy. It just kind of becomes much more homogeneous and things flow better. And all the angels come in around the sides of the room. So if you have anything on your lap, you might want to put it on the floor or on the seat next to you. And you want to get yourself in a really comfortable position so you can relax very, very deeply. Just kind of settle down in. Let your eyes gently close. And allow yourself to go where you go when you go. Welcome back. It's so hard to come back. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and start. And the people who forgot to read the email or didn't read the email and come at the intermission, just give them a tap on the back. Last month I had a lot of people who were angry. If you'd let me know, I would have been here on time. Well, I've let everybody know this time, and if you don't read the email, it's your fault. Okay? So, anyway, I met Echo about 15 or so years ago. After I went to the other side in May '98, I came back and I thought I was totally crazy. And I started reading things and trying to understand what had happened to me. And I think the second book I read was Echoes of the Soul. And it just made an incredible impression upon me. I just felt it right here, and I loved it. And I started trying to find her, have her come as a speaker. Took me, that was in, I went to the other side in 95, 05, 15. It's been 22 years I've been looking for her to come. Well, actually, 15 years ago, she was in Chicago, but not to speak to us, and I picked her up, and we had a wonderful time at dinner one night. She doesn't remember, but I remember. And I called her maybe a half dozen times since then, trying to find out a time and a way to make this work, and it just never happened. So about 15 years ago, we had a whole meeting called Echo Bodine, and I showed the films I had. I should have brought those. We could have shown the films when she was about her family, because her whole family are psychics, and it's a very interesting film about how she grew up, but she's going to tell you more about that now. In any case, I'm thrilled to have you with us today, and please give a warm welcome to Echo Bodine.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I'd like to stand out here closer to you guys. Everybody always asks me how I got into all of this, and so I'm going to share the story with you because it is an unusual story. I grew up in a normal, dysfunctional family like everybody else. Okay? Presbyterian, went to church every Sunday, didn't talk about psychic things, didn't go to psychics. And it was in 1965. My family, we were all sitting around the dinner table, and my one brother was learning how to play the drums. And every night after dinner, he would go downstairs to the den and he would practice. So, okay, and I should say I was 17 years old at the time, 1965. Okay. So he went downstairs and he was clanking away, and all of a sudden this really nice drumming music came from the den. And we all just stopped talking, and we looked at our dad, and Dad said, I don't know, it must be the record I bought him. And then within seconds, my brother came flying up the stairs and said, did you hear it? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? And we said, yeah, what was it? He said, a white figure floated through the door, across the room, put its hands on top of my brother's hands, and played this really nice music. And he said, I tried to drop my sticks. I had my eyes closed and I could still see him. And he said, and then all of a sudden, he just pulled back, floated across the room and out the door. And my brother was hysterical, obviously. And so we're all just standing there like, what? And my mom was in a prayer group at the time. And there was a woman in the group who had told her secretly that she had been to a psychic. And so Mom called her and said, could I have a number of that psychic? We just had a really weird thing happen. So she gets the number, she calls the psychic. Her name was Mrs. Olson, and that's back when Folgers were doing all of their Mrs. Olson jokes. So we thought this was really cool that we were calling Mrs. Olson. And she said, hello, my name is Mary Bodine, and we just had a very unusual experience in our family. And she said, yes, Mrs. Bodine, I've been expecting your phone call. And she said, your son just met his guardian angel, Dr. Fitzgerald, and in one of his incarnations, he was a drummer. And he's going to teach your son how to play the drums. He's going to teach your son many things. And she said, this happened for a reason. I need to see you and your oldest daughter for a psychic reading. Okay, so Mom says, okay, I'll get back to you on that, and hangs up the phone and then turns to us. tells us what this woman says, as if it's going to bring any peace of mind to any of us. A guardian angel who plays the drums, and now she wants to see Mom and I for a reading. Okay, and so, oh my gosh. So that night, I literally slept with my lights on, and did for 2 years after that, because I was so terrified that I had a spirit guide that was going to do something with me. And so I figured, I don't know why I thought if I slept with the lights on, I wouldn't be able to see them, because my brother had the lights on in the den, but for some reason I thought I was safer with the lights on. And Mom and I were curious, of course, and so she called Mrs. Olson back and said, okay, we'd like to set up appointments, okay, and oh my God, you should have seen us on the way to that psychic's place. We were, oh my, we were, well anyway, we were just so freaked out, and we had never been to a psychic. I mean, the only psychic we had ever seen was that old gypsy woman in the Wolfman movies, and I don't think she had any teeth, if I recall. So this is what we were kind of expecting, was somebody like her, and the sweetest lady answered the door with a British accent, just adorable. And she asked us in, and she said to me, okay, dearie, now you sit here with Mr. Olson and watch TV while I do your mother first. And I just sat there like a little robot on the couch. I was thinking, oh my God, can he read all my thoughts? Does he know all my secrets? Like I had a lot of secrets at 17, but whatever I had, it was mine. And so, but I just thought, oh my gosh. And so I was like a little statue just watching TV. I was a nervous wreck. And Mom went in first, and then Mom came out about 20 minutes later, and she gives me this look, you know, like, oh my God. And then I went in. Okay, now, Mrs. Olson's office was about the size of a walk-in closet today. It was very tiny, and there was a little chair and a little table next to her, and so I sat down on the chair, and there was a glass of water on the table. So I grabbed the water, because I'm so nervous, and she says, oh, no, dearie, don't drink the water. That's for the spirits. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to drink the water. So what I did was, the whole time that Mrs. Olson was talking to me, I mean, I'm listening to her, but I'm totally watching that glass of water, because I want to see it go down, right? But it never went down. Okay. Well, in the reading, she told me that I was born with all 4 of the psychic abilities and the gift of healing. And she said that when I got a little older and worked through some of my stuff, because she said, you have some heavy karma, dear, which I didn't even know what that meant. When you get older, you're going to teach others how to develop their psychic abilities and teach people about the gift of healing. And you're going to write many books, and you're going to be on radio and TV, and you're going to travel around the world. So I said, wow. Okay, 2 things. 1, I don't have any of this stuff. And 2, I don't want any of this stuff. I do not want to grow up to be a psychic. And I said, I'm going to go to college, because I had already been accepted at the University of Minnesota. I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to be a social worker, and I'm going to get married and have lots of kids. And that's going to be my life. I said, I just want a normal life. And she said, you can do all of that in your next life. Which I'm like, my next life. Okay. So she said, no, this is what you came here to do in this lifetime. Oh my God. Okay, so then she says, there's 2 things I'm supposed to teach you about the gift of healing. 1, always use white hankies underneath your hands when you're channeling healing. And 2, don't ever forget that it's God that heals people. You're just the channel. The rest you'll learn on your own. She says, your father's at home with a migraine headache, which he was, which was really unusual, because my father was a very stoic German, hard-working, ethic man who in my entire life up until 17 had never come home from work sick, or I had never heard him say that he had a headache. He came home that day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with a migraine, which he had never had before. And so when we left, he was laying in bed, Mom put a nice cool rag on his head and off. We went to the psychics and he was grumbling because he didn't want us to go to the psychic. And, you know, we said, we'll see you soon. Okay, so Mrs. Olson says, your father's at home with a migraine headache. Yes. And she says, go home, get some hankies, put them on his head, put your hands on his head, and then ask God to work through you. Okay? And so you should have heard Mom and I on the way home, because what she told my mom was that she would be a well-known psychic, that my baby brother Michael, who at the time was 8, that he was very psychic. He would be a well-known psychic. He would write books, be on radio, TV, and that my sister Nikki would come into her gifts in her middle 40s. So the whole way home, Mom and I are saying, why us? What did we do? Why did we have to do this stuff? And, okay, so we got home. We went upstairs to see Dad, tell him what the psychic said, and I said, Dad, you know, can I take some of your hankies and put them on his head, or your head, and can I just try this? And he said, don't hurt my head. And I said, okay, I won't. And so, and all of a sudden, they start heating up with little heating pads, and I could actually feel an energy in my arms that I was not aware of before. So I've got my hands here, I'm standing back like I think they're going to explode or something, I don't know, but I was like this. And then they start to tremble all on their own. And it's like the energy, I could feel this buildup of energy, and then I would feel it release into his head. All that took probably 30 seconds. And then it all stopped, everything stopped. My hands cooled off, okay, took my hand off, and my dad said, well, I'll be darned if my headache isn't gone. Which was the good news and the bad news, because good, he doesn't have a headache. Oh no, maybe the psychic knew what she was talking about. Well, the funny part was, I mean, I laugh now when I look back on it. That night I went to bed. Okay, now remember, I'm a senior in high school. I was pretty shy. You know, the most excitement I had at that point in my life was that I belonged to the home ec club after school. So, okay, so I'm laying there in bed and I'm thinking, all right, let's see, there was Jesus, and then there's Oral Roberts, and now there's me. So I'm thinking, well, I think I better buy some robes, because I think healers wear robes, and and I better start reading the Bible. Actually, I better memorize the Bible, because you know you have to be religious if you're going to be a healer. And then, I should probably quit high school, because I really need to get to India. I think there's a lot of sick people in India. And, and I should, maybe, everybody smoked in 65, so I'm just letting you know. I'm laying there thinking, I wonder if I should quit smoking. And that was it. Oh my God, I was a wreck that night, just trying to figure out the rest of my life and how I was going to become a well-known psychic, and I'm going to write books, what? And, oh my God, okay, I think I just exhausted myself and finally went to sleep. All right, so jump ahead 6 weeks later, my mom gets a phone call from a woman named Bertie Torgerson. And she says, my name is Bertie Torgerson, I'm a spiritualist minister in Minneapolis, and my guides have given me your name, your daughter Echo's name, and 6 other people in the Twin Cities, and I'm supposed to teach you how to develop your psychic abilities. She says, class starts a week from Thursday, here's my address, I expect to see you there, and click. She never said hello or goodbye. It was always what she had on her mind, click. And so Mom came up to my room and told me, and I was like, oh my God, Mom, I can't stand this stuff. And because, all right, now I want to tell you what happened between Mrs. Olson's visit, and Bertie. Mom and I found the seediest part of Minneapolis, and there was an occult bookstore back then. Of course, it was in the creepiest part of town where nobody wanted to go. And so what we did was, we went in and we bought all of Ruth Montgomery's books. Of course, we bought a Ouija board because we figured all psychics owned a Ouija board, and I think we bought them out of incense, all right? I mean, this is what we figured that psychics did was read Ruth Montgomery, burn incense 24 hours a day, and work the Ouija board. Okay, so we did that, you know, and oh my gosh, our life was changing quickly. And then Bertie called. Off we go. Mom said, let's just go one night. We won't go back. We'll just see what this is all about. Okay. Well, what was really cool about going to Bertie's class that night, even though I got to tell you, it was really kind of creepy. And the other 6 people, they were just like Mom and I. Like, what are we doing here? We're just regular people. And but once Bertie started to explain what psychic abilities were, oh, yeah, I do that. Clairvoyance, the gift of sight, getting visions and pictures in your mind's eye. Oh yeah, I get that. Clairaudience, the gift of hearing. Thoughts coming in out of nowhere that later come true. Yeah, well, yeah, I do that, but everybody does that. Clairsentience, the gift of sensing. When you walk into a room and you use your own sensing to sense, this is a nice crowd of people, this is a crowd of people I should be careful of. We've used our clairsentience since we were little kids. That's how we figured things out when we were little. When we were around people that, you know, everybody's smiling at you when you were a little kid. And, oh, you're so cute, and, oh, you're so sweet, and blah, blah, blah. But we learned somewhere along the line to use our clairsentience to check this person out, okay? And clairgustance, which is a really strange one. I don't know if a person can really develop clairgustance or if they just have it. But clairgustance is the gift of smell. And where that shows up the most is when our deceased loved ones come to visit us and we can smell them. We can smell their Old Spice cologne or a bouquet of flowers. When my grandpa used to come to visit, Mom and I would always smell vanilla ice cream because he loved vanilla ice cream. Okay, that's clairgustance. What she did every week with us was she taught us different exercises. It was actually really cool. In the class, I was the most resistant of all the others. I don't know if it's because I was a teenager or because they were all adults and they seemed to grasp it a lot quicker than me. I kind of fought it all the way. And God bless Bertie because she had the patience of a saint with me. Because everything that she would say, my little Virgo brain would question everything. I wanted to know, well, why do you believe in reincarnation? Reincarnation is for pot-smoking hippies, and I'm not a pot-smoking hippie, okay? I couldn't, astral projection? What do you mean my soul leaves my body? My soul is never allowed to leave my body, but that's how I thought. It's like, what are you trying to sell me? And what do you mean I have spirit guides? Which totally made me 100% paranoid all the time. Okay, I've got people that follow me all the time, and oh my God, I'm telling you, I was a wreck. And everything Bertie said, I would just sit there and analyze it to death. And everybody else in the class is talking about their spirit guides. People are talking about auras. I'm like, auras? I don't see any colors around people. You guys are making this stuff up. Okay, I was the obnoxious one in class. Because I think I was just so freaked out that my life is changing right before my very eyes into a whole other way of believing that I just didn't know about. And then, okay, oh my gosh. So then, okay, we're in class every Thursday night, and we're developing our abilities, and she gives us really good exercises, and I continued to fight it. Oh man. Okay, so then we go back down to the seedy neighborhood and buy more books and more incense, of course, and we started meeting other people in the community. Okay, now look at all the people in this room. I mean, somebody could walk here in here and think we're at a real estate convention, right? I mean, we don't look weird. We don't. But I'm telling you, in '65 they did, okay? Everybody that we met looked really scary and like they lived in a tree, and it's like, oh my God, these people. And then they, you know, my mom, she was so sweet, inviting everybody over for dinner all the time, and so, oh my gosh, suddenly our house looked like, I don't know, the circus. I mean, I don't mean to be mean here, but that's kind of how it looked. And neighbors were starting to stay away from us, and we were being very careful about who we told, because we were finding out quickly that a lot of our friends were going away from us. They were afraid of us. And, you know, oh boy, I look back and it's just amazing that we even made it through that time, but we did. And, you know, it's kind of like we went way into it almost in a crazy way, and then we found the middle ground. And I remember saying to God one time, okay, look, here's the deal. If I really have to do this lifetime, I don't want to look like I live in a tree. I just want to look like a nice, normal person, and I want to talk like a nice, normal person. Because back then, the language, what? I mean, you'd stand and talk to one of these psychics, and what? I mean, you couldn't understand anything they were talking about because of the language. And I remember saying to God, all right, I'll do this if I can be normal. And if I can talk normal, and I can dress normal, and my house can be a normal house. And it seemed like God said, yeah, you can do that, because that's how it's been for my whole family. We're just normal people that have these gifts. My brother, who I dearly love, he, ever since he was a little guy, I mean, he's 6 years old, he used to talk about all the colors around people. And we just thought we had given him too much sugar, okay? I mean, what is he talking about? Nobody, and he would always, you know, be gibbering, talking to people and that nobody could see. And he just kind of grew up like this. He's, you know, in our family, I really believe he's the best psychic of all of us, because he's very, very funny, and it's just a matter-of-fact thing for him. Now what's interesting is he has 2 children, and now he's got a granddaughter who's 16 months old, and now she's talking to, you know, the air, and it's very interesting to watch it go generation to generation. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked here. But what I did, though, was Mom and I practiced with Bertie for at least a year, I would say. And you know, the main thing about developing your psychic abilities is practice. Practice, practice, practice. I mean, Bertie would just yammer that in our heads every time we saw her. Are you practicing? Have you been practicing? And it was hard back then to find people to practice on, you know. And the main thing that we would, the one, okay, she taught us about psychometry, which is, you know, holding metal objects and getting vibrations that way. Billets, some of you might know what billets are. They were, back then in the 60s, they had billet readers. And what you would do, like all of you, it was on a Sunday at a hotel in downtown Minneapolis, and we would go in, we'd pay our $3, and we'd get a piece of paper and a pencil. And then we would go sit down in our seat, much like this room, and we would write out a question. And we had to write it to someone deceased. And, okay, so, dear Grandma, this is Echo. when am I going to find my husband? That was usually my question. And okay, so I pulled up my question, and then you're supposed to sit and think about your question, because in case you had two questions in mind and you didn't know which one to use, oftentimes what would happen is that whichever question was the most important question, that was the one that the billet reader would answer. So that's why you're supposed to hold your billet. And then what they do is they these people that help them, they come like with a collection plate, and you all throw them in. Okay, so there's like 100 people in a Sunday afternoon billet session. Put them all in a bag. Okay, and then she comes out, and it was Mrs. Olson. They put cotton on her eyes, then they put a handkerchief, I guess, and then they do another one to make sure that she couldn't see the billets. And she would stand there for at least an hour, just picking them out of the bag, holding them up to her third eye, or down here to her intuition. And then she would say, okay, this is for a gentleman on the right side of the room who thought about wearing a green shirt today but ended up wearing a yellow one. And the answer to your question is, and then she'd give the answer, okay? And she would do that for an hour. And, all right, so Bertie taught us about billets. And what was the other one? Psychometry, billets. Oh, photographs. You take a photograph of someone and you put it in an envelope, and you give it to your partner, and then they never look at the picture, but they just sit and hold the envelope, and they write down thoughts and pictures that are coming to them. And then the other one that she gave us was the one that I use all the time, and that is just giving someone a first name and tuning into that person's vibration. So those are the 4 examples that we had, exercises that we had, and we practiced as often as we could. And slowly, our abilities were getting stronger and stronger, to the point where we could trust what we were getting, we could understand. Because as a clairvoyant, what I learned was that you get pictures, but a lot of times the pictures are symbolic. They're not literal pictures. And there's a lot to learn when you're learning how to discern the different abilities. And okay, the other thing that's really cool is that my mom was intuitive my whole life. Intuition and psychic abilities are different. A lot of people throw them all in one big bowl and say it's all intuitive or it's all psychic. It's not. And psychic abilities, remember, you've got clairvoyance up here, you've got clairaudience down here, you've got clairgustance here in your nose. So 3 of the 4 psychic abilities are up in your head. Clairsentience is that sensing that we all have. Intuition is the still small voice inside. Now, when I was growing up, I mean, my mom used to know everything about, she would always say her intuition told her. She called it her intu. And so she'd say, I don't know, honey, my intu just says we shouldn't do that today. Or my intu says this or that. Or, I mean, it was always my intu. And this was before Mrs. Olson ever came into our lives. So when I was a kid, even like 7 years old, when I would ask her a question, like, well, Debbie wants me to know if I can come to her house Friday night for a slumber party. My mom would say, what does your intuition say? And she'd point to her intuition, or to my stomach. I'm 7. You know, it's like, I don't know what it says. And so she'd say, okay, but I want you to learn what it feels like when it says yes and when it says no. And I remember one time, Debbie did call and say, can you come to my house for a slumber party? And I asked my mom, can I go to Debbie's? And she said, oh, what does your intuition say? I'm like, oh, it says yes, I can. Okay, I didn't know what it said, but I wanted to go to the slumber party. So Okay, so I went to the slumber party, and about halfway there, oh, I just missed being home so bad. I just wanted to be home. So I called my mom and I asked her if she'd come and get me. Yes, she came and got me. And first thing she said when I got in the car was, well, what did your intuition say about this? I said, Mom, I don't know what it says. And she says, okay, well, when it says no, it's just flat. There's no energy. And again, I'm thinking my stomach is going to talk to me, and it took me a while, but she stayed on me with every decision that I had to make. What does your intuition say? So what was really cool about that is that by the time I was 17, I had a really pretty good understanding of what my intuition was. And so I have always relied on my intuition when it comes to discerning the pictures that I receive as a psychic. And I really believe, you know, for a lot of us, we've been to psychics for readings, and sometimes the stuff doesn't come true. And I think it's because the psychic misinterpreted the information. And it's so easy for the psychic to misinterpret. I'll give you an example. Okay, wait, no, not yet. There's a couple other things that I learned. And I remember Bertie saying to us, you're all going to develop your own language. Which, again, I'm very literal, so I'm like, what? I'm going to start talking in a different language. And no. It's like, no, echo. Okay, you're going to start talking in a different language. You're going to see all of it through your own eyes, but you have to learn to interpret it. Again, I'm like, okay, that just went right over my head. So then I started having experiences. A lady came to me for a reading, and she wanted to know if she was going to have a good trip. She said, I've saved $2,000 to go to Mexico. I've never taken a vacation before, and I want to know if it's going to be good. Oh, okay. Throw the question up on my screen, and I ask God, I ask my guides, please help me with this. Is she going to have a good time? Up on my screen comes a picture of the Minnesota State Fair. Minnesota State Fair, let's see, Mexico. What do they have in common? I have no idea. So Bertie always used to say, take your invisible eraser and erase the picture if you don't understand it. Okay, so I did that. And then I said, okay, maybe you didn't understand the question. She is going to go to Mexico. She wants to know because she's going to take a vacation before, and it's $2,000. Is it going to be a good trip? Minnesota State Fair? What does that even mean? And so I went down to my intuition. What does this mean? Minnesota State Fair? Is she supposed to go to the State Fair instead? No. Okay, I have no idea what this means. And finally I said, okay, I said to my guides, okay, could one of you just give me the answer, please, and make this a little easier? And the voice said to me, Echo, you always have a great time at the State Fair. So I said, are you kidding me? You couldn't have just said yes? And they said, this was a good teaching moment for you, okay? And you know what? They're right, because I've used that every time I give a talk about clairvoyance. We get pictures in my own vocabulary. See what I mean? Okay, so, and then at one time, I had gone on a vacation to Canada, and it was truly the trip from H-E-double-L. And when someone asks me a question, and that picture comes up on the screen, oh boy. I always try to find a really nice way of saying, you're going to have a horrible time. But I find a nice way of saying it. Okay. The other thing about the symbols is that, okay, so let's say that you say to me, I'd like to know about my neighbor's health. And, okay, so I close my eyes. And up on my screen comes a picture of my grandpa who had emphysema. Oh. And so I say to the person, feels like your neighbor has emphysema. Yes, that's right, that's right. Okay, and then they'll say, can you tell me the outcome? Okay, so I go back, how was the outcome? And then I see my grandpa in the casket. It's like, oh God, why? And, you know, like Bertie always used to say, they're not giving you this information for your benefit, Echo. They're giving it to you for the client. So if you see someone dying, you have to say it. All right, so now see my brother is very blunt, and he would just say, yep, I see a casket here. Okay. Whereas and he always gives me a hard time. He'll say something like, oh, you should ask my sister because she'd give you an answer much lovelier than mine. And so I always find a nice way of saying, yes, it looks like the person's going to pass away from this illness. Okay. All psychics, all of us that have these abilities, have our own language. And it is very helpful. Oh gosh, I teach psychic development classes at home in Minneapolis, and it's really important to me to teach them about their intuition first before we dive into trying to discern the pictures and understand what they all mean. Intuition has been the most valuable part of my career, because you know what I learned is that, first of all, intuition is the voice of God within. Talks about that in the Bible, the still small voice within. The other thing is that it never lies to us. It's 100% accurate. It doesn't have emotion. And so, here's an example. One of my students called me one night. She said, oh my God, my intuition's freaking out because it just told me that my daughter is going to die in a car accident on the way home from school. So I said, okay, now let's just, okay, tell me where this feeling is. It's right in my gut, right where my intuition is. I said, okay, and it's freaking out. Oh my God, it's just full of fear. It's just full of fear. I said, okay, you know what? That's your fear. That is not your intuition. Because if it was her intuition, it would have given her a very calm message if she was supposed to receive it, if she was supposed to know that her daughter was going to be in an accident. And I'll give you an example. I was on my way to a doctor appointment one day, and I said to my intuition, okay, will you help me remember everything I was going to talk to the doctor about today? And I heard, no. So I said, you're not going to help me? And the voice said, accident. I said, accident? I'm going to have an accident? Okay, it was so calm. It was just a word, accident. And that's how intuition is. It's just a word. It's not an emotion. Well then, of course, I jump into emotion. But when I first received the information from intuition, it's very calm. And so that's why I knew that her daughter was not going to die in a car accident on the way home, but that was her fear. Okay, these are like really cool, important little things that I've learned along the way just to help me work with these abilities. What I did was, I did go on to college. I went to college for 3 years, and just ended up going to barber school, which is something I had always wanted to do, was cut hair. And the whole time, I'm doing other things. I'm doing what I wanted my life to be like. My abilities were continuing to grow more and more. Symbols I was getting, okay, like with vacations, the Canada trip, that's an indication of a bad experience. Minnesota State Fair, that's a good experience, okay? So my vocabulary of symbols was starting to build up, and my abilities were getting stronger. But I stayed in the closet as long as I possibly could. I didn't want people to know that I had these abilities, because I wanted people to just think of me as a normal person, you know? And I have a cute story for you. This was near the end of my barbering career, And a lady came into the barber shop one day. Now I was taught how to cut men's hair, beards, mustaches, not all the female stuff. I'll put it that way. Well, that's kind of a weird way to put it, but anyway. Okay, so this lady comes into the barber shop and she says, "Do any of you cut women's hair?" My boss looks right at me, like, what? And okay, I had a guide named John at that time. John, let me tell you about John. John was totally cool. He was about, he was actually a little bit shorter than I am. And he always wore black pants and a white shirt. He looked like Clark Gable back then. And he had the best sense of humor. Oh my gosh. And so I'm standing in the barber shop, I'm looking at this lady, and all of a sudden there's John. He just appears and he says to me, "I could teach you how to cut her hair." And I said, "You're kidding, right?" So he says, "If she has a picture, I can teach you how to cut her hair." So I said to her, "Do you have a picture? Oh, you want to look?" "Oh, yes, I do." "Oh, good, okay." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what am I about to do?" And okay, so she sits down in my chair, wash her hair, okay. And John, totally cool. "Okay, lift her hair up. All right, go in 3 inches. Oh, okay." All right, he did the entire head. Just kept telling me, "No, not that far up." "Oh, okay. All right." Blew dry her hair, turned her around, and she was absolutely flabbergasted. She said, "Oh my God, that is so perfect." And I said to her, "Okay, I want you to do me one favor. Don't tell anybody about this." Well, the next day, 5 women come in from the bank that she works at and said, "Which one of you is the psychic barber?" And no. And so for quite a while, I had a lot of female clients, and John helped me with every one of them. Okay, but that was getting close to the ending of my barbering career. But what was interesting to be a barber in that position was that people would come in, I'd be cutting their hair, all of a sudden my hands would heat up, and a lot of times they would say, "Oh, what is that?" And I just said, "Oh, I don't know, my hands get hot." And wow, it's actually kind of comforting. I go, "Oh, good." And I just keep working on their hair. And people would say to me often, "Wow, I came in here with a bad headache," or "I came in here with a sore throat. I came in here with no energy at all. Sore throat's gone, headache's gone. Wow, I'm full of energy." Okay, and I just kept smiling at people, never said a word. Or sometimes what would happen is, I see Diane standing up over there. This means something. Anything? Time for a break? Why? I've already talked that much? Wow. I'm sorry, you guys, once I get going. And, I should warn you, I haven't had caffeine for months. I had some caffeine today, so you're the lucky people that get to listen to me go on and on. All right, so, okay, so I'll finish up with the barbershop. What happened was, remember that car accident that my intuition told me about? Okay, well, I ended up being in the hospital for 10 days in traction, and, but you know what, it was a blessing in disguise. But the problem was, I was going to the doctor quite often to get cortisone shots in my neck and in my spine because I couldn't keep my arms up for very long. And finally, all 3 of my doctors said, "It's time for you to find another career." And I was so mad, but that was the beginning of my psychic career. Okay, now we can take a break. Okay, so now the second portion of this afternoon's presentation, I'm going to talk to you about ghosts, and I'm going to talk to you about the other side. Okay, this was when Mom and I were in Bertie's class, and she hadn't really talked to us much about ghosts, but a friend of my mom's called her and said, "Could you and one of your kids come over and look in my attic, because there's voices, we hear footsteps, And so Mom came back up to my room and said, honey, Carol wants us to come over to her house. Okay. Why? Well, they're hearing voices and footsteps. Oh, okay. So we get in the car and we're driving, and it was quite a ways out to Carol's house. And so the thought occurs to me, okay, why are we going there? Because she hears voices and footsteps in her attic. Oh, okay, driving along. Wait a minute now. Are you thinking that we are going to be looking for like a ghost? And she said, well, I'm not sure, honey. Oh, okay. And driving along, and my little Virgo brain is really analyzing the whole situation. Okay, Mom, what do they look like? Well, I'm not sure, honey. Okay, driving along. Mom, what are we going to do if we find one? And she said, I don't really know, honey. And so that's how much we knew about ghost busting. And we didn't have a clue. Okay, we get to Carol's, we go up to the attic. I was raised on Casper, so I'm looking for a little white blobby guy with 2 holes, with eyes. And so I'm standing there, and I'm just looking around for this filmy thing. And over in the corner, there's a man and a woman and a girl and a boy, but they're kind of invisible, but yet you can kind of see them. So I look at my mom, and she's looking right at him. So I said, why are those people over there? And she said, I don't know. Okay, so I think Mom was looking for Gasper too, because it didn't really dawn on us that those people were actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't know what a ghost was. All I knew was Casper, and I did not know that a ghost is the soul of someone. So I'm looking for this blobby white thing, and nothing ever appeared, but again, I'm thinking, I wonder why those people are over there. And into my head comes the words, he won't let us go to the other side. So I look at this lady. Now her lips weren't moving, but that's what came into my head. So I had the thought, who won't let you go to the other side? And into my head comes the thought, again, this is clairaudience thoughts. My husband was an alcoholic and a smoker, and he passed out, we all perished in a fire, and he won't let us go to the other side because he's afraid he's going to get sent to hell. All that came into my head, and my mom's head. We both heard it. So Mom and I look at each other, like, and we said, well, you have to go. Oh, okay. So they go through the wall. And we thought, wow, that was easy. And again, Casper never showed up. So we didn't find any ghosts. We just saw some invisible people standing over in the corner. Okay, and that was the extent of what we did. And by the time we got back home from Carol's, Carol said, okay, well, all the footsteps are back and we hear all the voices again. All right. Well, then shortly after that, I did another job, which was just crazy, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so after that, I just thought, okay, this is it. I'm hanging up this job. I'm not, just because I'm a psychic doesn't mean I have to know how to do this stuff, right? Okay, so after that, any time that people knew that I had psychic abilities, they would ask me if I would come and look in their attic. It's always the attic. And I would just say, yeah, I don't know how to do that. And then one day, and this was many years later, one of my students said to me, would you come and look at my house? She said, it's so haunted, I think. She said, I had to move out, and it's been on the market for a year, and nothing's happening. So she said, would you come and look and just see? So I felt so bad for her. I mean, a year she hadn't lived in her house. So I called my brother Michael, And I just said, bro, can you see spirit? Yeah. Do they scare you? No. Okay, will you go with me to this lady's house? Sure. And my sister-in-law, his wife, came along with us. Now, she is not into anything that we are into. And so, but she came with, and it was unbelievable when we walked in that front door. And what was really nice to have a partner in this is that, okay, when we first walked in the front door, psychically, I mean, the house itself was bare, but psychically, here's this round table, and here's all these gentlemen sitting around in a circle, and they were dressed kind of different. I didn't really recognize what that was, but I look at these men, and I look at my brother, and he goes, whoa, that's a lot of guys. Okay, so the good news is he's seeing the same thing that I was seeing. Okay, so then okay, here's the other cool thing, is that our guides at that time came with us. And so John's with me, and John says, ask them why they're here. Okay, why are you guys here? What are you guys? We're a group of Quakers, and we come here every week to pray. Oh, okay. We didn't know what to do, so then we went into the kitchen. Oh my God, it was so funny. The woman who owned the house, my student, she had bought us a pizza, and so it was sitting in the kitchen. And there, standing right next to the pizza, is a ghost, pretending like he's eating the pizza. I look at my brother, some guy's eating a pizza. I go, okay, this is good. Then we went into a bedroom, and there was, psychically, there's a bed, and there's a lady laying in the bed. She looks like a skeleton. She looked awful. And I look at my brother, he's like, oh God, let's get out of this room. And so then we went upstairs. Okay, so we're upstairs. There's children in the closet playing toys. There's a teenager, and we see this picture of a bed. This teenager's jumping on the bed. There was a guy, oh, this was creepy. Okay, so I just happened to turn around and look at my sister-in-law, and there was a guy coming up just like this from behind her, and he looked like he was going to try to strangle her, and it just startled me, and I quick moved over to her, and I pushed her out of the way, and I yelled at this guy, what do you think you're doing? And he was freaked out that I could see what he was doing, and so he bolted back down the stairs. Okay, so then, all right, so we've got a house crawling with ghosts, and we didn't have a clue. And so that's when John, and I can't remember my brother's guide's name, but his guide, they were guiding us on how to get rid of these folks. And, okay, so what they taught us was go back down, talk to the group of men, find out what their names are, and then tell them, you need to move on to the light. And, you're stuck here in time, and you can have a whole new life on the other side. You can still all meet on the other side. And, okay, so we did that. And then we went to the pizza guy, and we got him to go to the light. And Michael and I were able to see, it looked like it always reminds me when I see it, it's the tunnel that leads to the other side. It always reminds me of kind of like that waiting area at the airport when we all used to meet people at the airplanes. Because in the tunnel, there's a whole bunch of people, and they're standing there with balloons, or they're standing there with flowers, and they're waiting for their deceased loved ones to come into the tunnel that day, and then escort them on into the light and onto the other side. So we would guide these spirits. We always asked their name. They always just gave us a first name, and we would ask them to, we would guide them. Okay, keep going, keep going. We could see them in the tunnel. We could see them getting up towards the white light. And just about every time that they get up to the white light, they turn around and look, kind of like do I really have to go in there? And it's like, yes, keep going, you're doing a great job. Come on, keep going. And then they go in the light, all right? And we did that. Yes, it took us 4 hours, but we did it. We went to every spirit in that house. And the good news was her house sold a week later. Isn't that cool? So, you know, a lot of people think that if you burn sage or sweetgrass, or nowadays it's Palo Santo, that gets rid of a ghost. But it doesn't. What it does, and what we've learned, again, according to the guides, is after we've got rid of all the all the ghosts, then we go through the house and burn sage or sweetgrass or Palo Santo. And what that does is it clears all of the different emotions of the ghosts, and it also clears all the emotions of the people that were living in the house. That's what that stuff does. I mean, I'm telling you, I've had more than one ghost say to me, God, why does she burn that stuff all day? Okay? People think that the sage is going to get the ghost out of there. It might get the ghost out of there for a little while until the smoke clears, and then they'll just go right back in. So if you ever come across a situation where you think, oh good, I'll just get some sage and get rid of this guy, it doesn't work that way. This was way before any of the ghost busting movies came out, and so, you know, we never, I mean, it was just, okay, people would call and say, would you come and clear our house? And off we'd go. And we have seen, oh my gosh. Well, just think about it. If we've been doing this work, specifically ghost busting, for 30 years, we've seen a lot of different situations. And we always ask the ghost, what's your name and why are you here? And the most common reason that we have heard from ghosts as to why they are staying earthbound is that they've done some things in their life that they're not proud of, and they're afraid they're going to get sent to hell. And so these ghosts have said to us, you know, God doesn't know where I am. I mean, I'm hanging in this tanning parlor, and God has no clue where I am, okay? And they actually think that they're safe. God can't get them, so therefore God can't send them to hell. And the second reason we hear is, my ex-wife is over there, my ex-husband is over there, my parents are over there, and I hate my parents. We've heard this from a lot of ghosts. Now, the media will tell you, all these ghost shows will tell you that the reason there's a ghost in the house is because someone died there. Believe me, that's not the case. If somebody committed suicide in a house, all you have to do is you go in the house and you burn some sage or some sweetgrass or some Palo Santo. You open up a window, always, a window or a door, and the smoke clears all the negative energy out of there. So where is the negative energy coming from? Is it coming from the person who committed suicide? It could, because they were severely depressed, otherwise they wouldn't have done that. So there could be a very heavy depressed energy, specifically in the area where they committed suicide, or the house could be full of grief from the other people that lived in the house. You just get rid of all that energy and the house is fine. It never means that a house is haunted if someone died there. I would have to say, of all the ghosts we've met, none of them, there was one guy, but there's Mr. Thompson. Most ghosts don't stay in the house that they died in. What they do, and here's an important fact about ghosts, is that, okay, it isn't necessarily, they don't go look for an old house to live in. New houses have just as many ghosts as old houses, okay? They will go and look for a house that has other ghosts in it. Now, here's an interesting thing. They don't socialize with each other. Ghosts tend to be loners. But what we've learned from them, because we'll say to them, you know, we'll go into a house and, oh, there's Charlie over by the palm tree. And so we go over, talk to Charlie and say, are there any more of you here, Charlie? I mean, we used to go do all that hard work ourselves, go to every room, every nook and cranny. Now we just go in and find one and just say, are there any more of you here? And they always say, oh yeah, Bert's down in the basement, Sally's up in the attic, George is in the shower. It's like, oh, thanks, okay. And so then what we do is we round them all up together. We have asked these ghosts a lot. Okay, do you talk to Sally in the kitchen or wherever Sally was? No, I don't know Sally. Okay, do you talk to Bert in the basement? No, I don't know Bert. Why would I talk to Bert? Oh, okay. But they pick a house that has other souls in it like themselves so they're not so lonely. But they have no desire to get to know these other folks, all right? These are not social people, all right? They're usually loners. You know what I would have to say? 90% of the ghosts that we meet are males. Yep. And the other reason we hear, there's two other reasons. Unfinished business, and they don't know they're dead. Now, those two are way overused by the media. Oh, there's unfinished business, unfinished business. Everybody in heaven has unfinished business, okay? That's not, oh my God, unfinished business. It's like, no. Everybody has unfinished business, so just calm down on that one. Or the media likes to say, oh, he didn't know he was dead. Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Okay, no. 30 years of doing this, and I've met one ghost that didn't know he was dead. And his name was Kenneth. Now, I was at their house, I would say in 1990. And Kenneth was a nasty little ghost. He would rip all the clothes out of the closet. He would, every day she would, you know, she had a desk, and a dresser, and she had her jewelry on. Every day she'd come home, and Kenneth had knocked everything off the dresser. She'd do this every day. Okay, pick it all back up, put it on the dresser. She'd come home the next day, it was all on the floor, clothes were pulled out of the closet. And Kenneth would also jump on her bed at night, and it just totally freaked her out, and that's why she called me. All right, well, this is what was so interesting, is that when I got there, Kenneth wasn't there. He wasn't anywhere in the house. So I said, oh, okay, well, we'll just sit and wait until he gets here. Well, so she and I are talking, and all of a sudden, there's this energy that enters the room, and it's really angry. And I just, oh, wow. I said, okay, we'll hold on, he's here. And so I look over, and there is a guy, and he's standing straight in front of me, and he's got on a uniform and a big hole blown through him, and it's bloody. Now, I've never seen a ghost look like that. Look like blood or, you know, oh, my head, or none of that. And I was standing there looking at him thinking, okay, now why is this one so different? And John said to me, he doesn't know he's dead. And I said, is that why he looks like that? And he said, yeah. And so I said to this young man, I said, what is your name? Kenneth. Well, Kenneth, why are you here? He's, well, okay, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what he said. If there was children in the audience, I'd cover it up. But he said, this bitch is living in my house. I said, okay, what's going on here? I said, what year do you think this is? 1968? And I said, and tell me what you remember last. I was in Vietnam. Next thing you know, I come home, and this bitch is living in my house. And I said, oh, okay, this is 1990. And I said, whoa, wow, okay. And I was just grasping in my mind for, what am I going to say to this kid? I mean, he was like 19 years old, very angry. And so, again, I said to him, okay, why, why are you doing all these things? And he said, I just want her out of my house. What is she doing in my house? She's not supposed to be in my house. I come back from the war and this woman's living in my house. And so he said, I just want her out of here, okay? And I'm going to keep doing all this stuff until she moves. Okay, so again, I just went and sat down. I was like, I don't know how to deal with this one. And my brother wasn't with me that night, and so I just sat down and I waited. It's like, okay, I need John, somebody's got to talk to me here. And John showed up and he said, I go, again, you have to tell him that he's deceased. So, okay, so I said, all right, Kenneth, I need to tell you something. This is actually 1990. And he looked so perplexed by that. And I said, and what it looks like is that you did not physically come back from Vietnam. It looks like you died in Vietnam. Well, he came at me like he was going to choke me or kill me or something. And I just went, whoa, stop. And he just screamed in my face, no, and took off. And so, went and sat back down, waited for him to come back. He came back about 20 minutes later. And I said, Kenneth, you know what? I am not going to leave tonight until you leave. And I said, this woman has been living here for a long time. This is not your house. You are deceased, and you need to go on to the other side. Again, he came looming at me, and I just said, I'm not going anywhere. He left again for a good 20 minutes, just sat down, okay. I was there for a few hours, and finally, when he came in, the last time, I said, come on, Kenneth, enough is enough. And I said, you could start a whole new life on the other side. The other side is like the coolest place ever. And he was crying. Now, souls don't cry wet tears, but they cry emotional tears. And so he was crying, and he's like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And I said, you know, I just talked to him like, come on, honey, it's time. It's just time to go. And I'll walk you through. And so I did. I said, okay, now, can you see the white light? Yes. Okay, well, I want you to float towards that white light. Okay, so he's starting to float. He's in the tunnel. He almost is at the white light. He turns around and looks at me, and I said, yeah, you're doing a great job. Just go right inside that light. And I said, you'll find your family. They're probably all waiting for you. They've probably been waiting for you for a long time. Goes in the light. I was exhausted. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when I finally left there. And but I burned some stuff, and okay, you'll get a kick out of this. So about 10 days later, I get a phone call from the lady's roommate. And he says, I just want you to know, if she calls you, that she called Kenneth back because she missed him so much. Yeah. And I was just flabbergasted. And he said, it's all happening again. All of it. And he said, I'm going to move out because I can't stand this. And he said, it's been so nice ever since you got rid of him. And now to have it all back, he said, I can't live like this. So what we found is we talk to people after we do a ghost busting, and we say to them, okay, well, first of all, what we do once we identify their ghosts, and a lot of people will call just to say, would you just come and see what's here? Because you don't have to get rid of them, but I just want to know if they're safe, because we've got children, and okay, so we'll go in, identify the ghosts, say to the people, are you sure you don't want us to get rid of them? No, they're great. You know, it's some people think of their ghosts as pets, okay, and it's nice to come home to someone kind of a thing. And we don't, you know, okay, if they want to keep, I mean, it's none of our business if they want to keep them or not. So what we do is, at the end, after we burned the sweetgrass or the sage, is we tell the people, okay, don't talk about your ghosts for a few days. If you want to talk about this experience with people, that's fine, but go someplace. Go to a coffee shop. Don't just invite your neighbors in and go, oh man, you know, he was jumping on the bed, blah, blah, blah. Because we have found that ghosts, once they get over there, it's kind of like moving to a new neighborhood. And so at first, you know, when you're moving, you moved out of your old neighborhood and you've moved into a new neighborhood, it's kind of scary. Like, oh, and so what we say to people is just give it a little bit of time. Let the ghosts be there for a few days. Because once they're there, usually for like 3 days, they're hooked. They love it over there. But at first, when souls go over, some souls, they're just very, very afraid, very nervous. Now, the other thing we found is the people that are so afraid of death are people that are very fundamental in their beliefs about death. Okay, they're scared to death of death. And we've also met ghosts who say, well, I don't believe in life after death, and I don't know what I'm doing here, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. And they're just shocked that, well, I died, but here I am, and I don't have a body, and I don't know why I'm here. And they didn't believe in souls. They didn't believe in life after death. They just thought that when they died, it would be darkness. And so here they are hanging out in the astral plane, and the astral plane is, it's a dimension between here's earth, here's heaven, here's the astral plane. So they're just hanging out on the astral plane, and what happens is they get bored, they want some attention, they're lonely, so a lot of them will look around for teenagers who have a Ouija board, and that's what they do. They just, oh good, now I can finally talk to somebody, and so they start playing with the board. And that's why I don't really recommend the board. Did I tell them the story about the, no, I didn't tell you that. Oh, I got a story for you. Okay. Ouija boards. Let's talk about Ouija boards for a second, because like I told you, Mom and I, you know, we bought our own little Ouija board, and we got so addicted to that goofy thing, it was ridiculous. Every time we had to make a decision, oh, let's go ask the board. And, okay, so Bertie had said to us, I remember she said, do you have a Ouija board? No. And, oh, okay, because, you know, what did she call it? Discarnate. Okay, thank you. They're the ones that work through the Ouija boards. Well, we were like, oh no, we love our Ouija board. We're not going to get rid of it. Well, okay. One night when we were all sitting around, again, the dinner table, eating dinner, we heard this. Okay, I'll see if I can do it. Echo, come here. Okay. And we're all like, what is that? And it did it 3 times. Echo, come here. Oh, like, oh God. Okay, so we quick call Bertie on the phone, and she says, Echo's got a Ouija board in her closet, which is exactly where it was. And, yes. Okay, you take that Ouija board and you burn it in the fireplace. Well, gosh, that seems so cruel. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll just put it in the garbage. And so we took it out, and the garbage was quite a ways away from the house. So, okay, walked out, put it in the garbage can. Okay. I mean, it was like a traumatic experience for us, but we did it. And the next morning when we got up and we went downstairs for breakfast, there it was sitting on the kitchen table. Okay. So we took it and burned it in the fireplace. And you know what? A lot of the stuff that was going on in our house. Okay, just imagine, in a family of 6, 4 of us are psychics, and developing our psychic abilities. Every ghost in town was living in our house. Spirit guides, oh my God, all these people coming and staying for dinner. It was ridiculous in our house, and which is one of the reasons why my dad finally moved out of the house, because he said, I can't take this. This is insanity, and he left. All right. Right, why did I tell you that story? Oh, just about the Ouija board, that's right. Okay, so these are the folks that played with Ouija boards. Is, you know, they say if you're going to work a Ouija board, then always ask for only the highest spirits, right? Like Lily would actually play with a Ouija board. No, angels don't work with Ouija boards. You know, advanced souls from the other side, that's like, are you kidding me? They would never work with the Ouija board. But, you know, you ask the Ouija board, are you a high spirit? Oh, yes, I am. Oh, thank God. And, okay, and so a lot of people think that's fine, it's safe. You know, here, use this for your slumber party, okay? That'll entertain the children. Well, yeah, it does entertain the children, but it's just not a good thing to do. It really isn't just a game. Somebody really is moving that, they call it a planchet, I think. Somebody really is moving the planchet around, so you want to remember that part. And it's also these earthbound spirits who just don't want to go to the other side. All right. So, okay. One day, Michael and I had been on a ghost-busting job the night before, and it was a big job, and oh gosh, and we were. Have you ever smelled sage? Okay, it smells like pot. I mean, let's be realistic here. And so we would always laugh because we would burn so much sage. I mean, we just reeked, and we would always, after a ghost-busting job, Michael would drive really careful so that we wouldn't get pulled over because, oh God, we just reeked of sage. And we'd always go to Burger King, get filled up on food, and stink like sage, and that was our life, okay. But one Sunday morning, okay, we went to the ghost busting on a Saturday night. Sunday morning, I was out in the garden. It was Palm Sunday, and out in the garden. And I said to God, I said, you know what, I'd really like to have more information about the other side. Now, I had seen the other side a lot in readings, but just little snippets of where people had gone when they died. And so I said, I'd really like to have more information. And if I'm not ready to know more about the other side, could you get me ready? Because I would really like to be able to tell these ghosts more about the other side. And I said, okay, and that's it? I'm not going to ask you again. I'm just going to let it go. That was on a Sunday. Okay. On the following Wednesday, that was at a time when I was seeing 4 clients a day. And the last client of the day was a guy named Neil who came every week for healing for diabetes. Okay, so Neil, the healing is done. He's starting to walk up the stairs to leave. And all of a sudden, psychically, my office starts to fill up with a white light that was like, what? It was just like somebody just turned on a fog machine. And then I saw this spirit, female spirit in front of me, and she's saying, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. And I'm thinking, who are you? I go where? And why is everything white? And then John says, have Neil get you upstairs and have him call your brother right away and tell him to get over here. Well, it was nearly impossible to find my brother, let alone get a hold of him right away or get him to come over right away. But I gave Neil the number and I said, please call my brother, you have to help me upstairs. Because what was happening was that my body was becoming like a rag doll. And I didn't understand at the time what was happening. I'll tell you in a second. But I was just like, it was like my body was collapsing. And so I held on to Neil. He got me upstairs, got me in the living room. Okay, by this time, I'm surrounded in this white light, and this female spirit is still saying, come on, let's go. And I'm thinking to her, and I said, I'm not going with you. I don't even know who you are. And okay, so I'm sitting on the couch. I'm a total rag doll at that point. My body's just over like that. My brother walks in the front door. He says to Neil, Neil, buddy, relax. He says, 3 days ago she asked God if she could have more information about the other side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ground her body. I'll hold her hand. I'm going to ground her body, and then she's going to go visit. And I'm sitting there thinking, what is he talking about? And poof, this spirit turns around, looks at me. It's my soul, my face, looking at me, saying, "Come on, let's go." And so Michael's holding my hand, and he's keeping my body grounded. Now, when a soul leaves a body completely, like my soul was doing, our body becomes like a rag doll. The soul is the energy for the body. And so when the soul is in, you're energized. When the soul is out, you are an absolute rag doll. And some of you might be able to relate to that when I say, do you remember times at night when you're sleeping and you wake up and you can't move, you can't open your eyes, you can't move, you know you're awake, but you're just laying there. Okay, that's because your soul is out of your body. Well, my soul, suddenly I was my soul's consciousness, and into the tunnel we go. And I'm looking at all these people, and I'm seeing people with balloons and flowers, and they're just so excited because their deceased loved ones are coming home today. And we're heading into the light, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go blind. And you don't. The white light is so inviting. It's just like it just envelops you, and you just go through it. And I came out on the other side, and there's my grandma, who I haven't seen since I was 14. And she's standing there with a lady next to her, and I said, "Hi, Grandma." And she says, "Hi, honey." And then she says to her friend, "This is my granddaughter, Echo." And her friend says, "Well, I didn't know she was dying today." And my grandma says, "Oh, no, she's not dying. She's just visiting." And I'm thinking, am I making this stuff up? Okay, well, right then, this angel floats up to me and says, "Come on, we don't have much time. This is not easy for your body." Okay, and so off we go, and it was beautiful. Over to the right is this very tall building, and she says, and what was interesting, you guys, is the grass. God, it was such a gorgeous green color. But the whole place had like a pink aura to it. And she said to me, okay, here's the other thing. She never spoke. Everything was mental telepathy. So she sent this thought, this is the pink place. And she says, and this is our hospital. She says, there are many hospitals in heaven, but I'm going to show you this one. And so I'm just looking at this really tall building. My mind is thinking, why do they have a hospital here? And she says, well, look at the second floor. Suddenly, I can see the second floor. And there's like rows and rows and rows of beds. And every bed had someone sitting on it, just sitting, waiting. And she said, this is the floor for suicide souls. Every bed has a caregiver. And when one arrives, they are placed here in a bed, and then a caregiver helps them when they wake up, helps them to understand that they actually did commit suicide and that this isn't a dream, because they have said that a lot of suicide people think, okay, I just need to wake up from this dream. And so she said the caregiver helps them. All right, then she said, now, look at the 8th floor. Okay, and it was suddenly like I was at the 8th floor, and she says, this is a floor for people who had physical handicaps when they were alive, and she says, it takes time to work with them to realize they no longer need a cane, they no longer are an amputee, that they've got full use of everything, and that they're now fine. But she says some people, when they have a disability for a long time, that's how they think of themselves. And so she says, we work with them to heal those beliefs about themselves. Okay. I said, look at all these people laying in the grass. And there were souls everywhere in the grass. And she said, these are souls that come here to heal. And this is a very healing environment. And so a lot of souls don't need to go into the hospital. They just come and lay on the grass and they get healed. Wow, okay. And then we floated along, and here's this gorgeous Coliseum. It was enormous, and it had windows and doors, but it didn't have actual doors or windows. It was just things cut out for a window, and angels were flying in and out of this building. And so I had the thought, okay, now what is this? Why are there so many angels here? And she sent me the thought, these are the angels that work with people on earth. And she said, they come back a lot. And she said, you can tell they're very happy souls. And oh yeah, they were giggling, they were happy, they were talking to each other about different situations going on earth. It was just very, very busy. Okay. Then she sent the thought, I'm going to take you to a special place. Okay. And we came up over a hill, looked down, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh my God, this place is fantastic. It was so beautiful there. And down in the middle of town was a man. And he's talking. And there's people up on the hill. There's people down in the city. There's people everywhere listening to him. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, oh my God, that looks just like Jesus. And she says to me, it is Jesus. And I felt so emotional, it was just like it overtook me, this feeling of, oh my God, I'm home. And I had the thought, oh, I wish I could go closer. And suddenly, there I was, closer. And I'm looking at him. And then I'm looking at all the people. Some people were laughing at what he said. Some people were crying at what he said. Some people were just totally mesmerized by what he said. And I just had the thought, wow, is this what he does? And then I heard the thought in my head, I will continue to teach until everyone gets the message that they are a child of God. It was so strong, like everything in me resonated with that. And I had the thought, okay, I'm home, I'm not going back. And my brother says, oh, no, you don't. You are coming back here. And he said, and this is really hard on your body, he says, so hurry up. And so I had a thought to myself, oh, nobody can make me go back. I'm not going back. And the angel looks at me and she says, you know, you weren't allowed here just for your benefit. You were allowed to come here so that you could tell others about it. And I'm thinking, neither one of you can make me go back. And, okay. So then she says, come on, there's more to show you. All right. And my brother said, go where the music is. I thought, the music? Oh yeah, there is music here. I hadn't even noticed it before. And so she takes me to this place, this field, and it was like the size of 3 football fields. And what it was all these musicians. It was very interesting. And, okay, so here's like thousands, I guess maybe, of musicians. But here's what was cool, was that, okay, if the country western singers are over here in this group playing country western, if I looked at them, I tuned into their sound. Okay, if there's opera singers over here and they're all hanging with each other and they're all happy and they're all singing opera, when I looked at them, I would tune into that sound. Okay, everybody, and yes, I really did see Elvis, I promise you I Oh, it was marvelous. Anyway, wherever I looked is what I would hear. And what was so cool was my brother was here on Earth hearing the same thing. Wherever I was looking, he was able to hear the music. So it was just really cool. Okay, so then, where did we go? Gosh, there's, it's like we went up a little higher and I could see communities. It's kind of like when you're in an airplane and you're looking out the window and you see the place is so well mapped out. Well, that's what it was like. It was like I went up above and I could see different communities. So I said to her, well, I had the thought, what is this? And she said that there are several different communities that represented different beliefs. So, like if you're a Native American Indian and you have the beliefs of a Native American Indian, when you pass, you're going to go to that community, okay? If you're Jewish and you pass, you're going to go to that community. If you're, what did she say? If you're a hard-working Catholic German, you're going to go to this community over here. And so I was just trying to figure it all out. And she said, you will go where your beliefs send you. And then she said, I'm going to show you something interesting. And she took me to a community, and she said, this is the community of beggars and thieves. So I said, in heaven? And she said, this is their beliefs. They believe that if they need something, they either beg for it or they steal it. And she said, and when their soul came to heaven, they could not see all the beauty. All they could think about was if they had needs or wants, they would have to steal or beg. Interesting, huh? So they lived in that community. It was really sad to see it, because they were like begging each other for things. Okay, so we left that community, and, all right, you'll like this. Okay, so remember the comedian Sam Kinison? He was pretty crude in his delivery. And for some of you who, if you don't know him, you're probably good. Okay. Okay, so Sam, he always wore this long trench coat and this French gray hat and Chuck Taylor tennis shoes. And he would, okay. All right, just to give you one idea of Sam Kinison. He used to be a preacher, then he became a comedian, and he would always tell jokes about having sex with dead people. Okay, that gives you an idea of Sam Kinison. Okay, all right. Well, he had just died the week before this experience, and so I just had the thought, oh, I wonder what happened to Sam Kinison. Before you know it, there he is right across the street, and I'm going, whoa! Because it was so bizarre. No matter where your thoughts are is where you are. I mean, okay, so there's Sam Kinison. He's across the street, and I see people coming up to him, they're shaking his hand, and they're saying, Sam, you did a great job, man. And I think, did they catch his act? And, okay, and more people were coming up. As he's walking down the street, hey, man, he had that high-pitched voice, hey, man, and people would come up and shake his hand, and everybody told him he did a great job. So finally, I just looked at the angel. I said, really? He did a good job? And she said, just as calm as could be, she said, yes, Echo, his delivery was rather, well, but she says he got people thinking about what did they believe in. I thought, wow, that's just amazing. Okay, so I hear my brother's voice. Sis, your body is really struggling to breathe. You have to get back here. I had the thought, sorry, bro, I'm not coming back, okay? And the angel says, no, Echo, you really do need to go back. Well, when I was looking at her as she was saying that, I noticed a stairway off in the distance. And I said to her, oh, there's a stairway. Where does that lead? And she said, to the higher levels in heaven. And I said, how many are there? She said, there's 7 levels altogether. And I said, well, so I start to float. She goes, no, no. She says, you're not ready. You don't have a consciousness yet about the higher levels of heaven. And right then, bam, I slammed back into my body. It's that fast. Now, what was interesting was, and again, this is how I learned all these things through experiencing them, not reading them in a book. Oh no. I have the actual experiences so that I can come back and tell people what it's like. And with this particular situation, I realized how powerful the soul is, because my body literally was sitting on that couch, and I was like gasping to get any energy possible. When my soul went into my body, it took me, oh man, it took me, I bet you, 5 minutes before I could even speak. And my tongue was thick, and my legs, I couldn't move my legs. And so it's like I had to integrate all the energy back into the body. And it took a good half an hour before I was actually able to get up and not walk like a little toddler. And then I was back. Okay, well, the interesting thing about this is that for the next 3 days, I was ridiculous. I was, okay, first of all, I was extremely depressed that I was back here. And secondly, I was driving like a maniac. I was hoping to die. I missed it. I missed heaven. I missed home so bad that I just wanted to get back there. And I didn't really realize what was going on with me until the 3rd day, when I looked at, why are you being so crazy? And why are you so depressed? And then it just became really clear to me that my soul wanted to be back home. So you know what I did? I said, okay, God, first of all, let me thank you for having that experience. But please don't ever let me go there again unless I get to stay. Because I said, that place is amazing. And I said, every part of it was amazing. And I just really want to be there. So after that, since then, when I have gotten more information about the other side, and I have been given information about the higher levels, but I had to grow more, I had to mature more myself spiritually. Since then, I'm, you know, I am grateful for the experience. It was really, really a good experience to have. And I'm very grateful that Michael went through it with me, because, you know, he can recount the story just as well as I just told you. It's like he experienced the whole thing himself just by me going through it. All right, so let me tell you really quick about 35 minutes, okay. What I've learned about the higher levels, okay, this is what I've learned. That here on Earth, there are 7 levels of spiritual consciousness. Level 1 is a beginning soul, a soul that's just been created. And they don't have much of a consciousness about anything. And these are the kids that we're seeing in the gangs. Okay, the people that have no consciousness about killing other people or stealing from them or hurting animals, or they don't have any kind of consciousness about that. Okay. They think that the way to have power is to kill other people or steal or, oh man. All right. Level 2 is people who are kind of coming out of that way of thinking. Now, level 1 soul, they could easily have 50 lifetimes to break that, I don't want to say break, to change their consciousness, to change that, okay, this isn't a good way to be. A lot of people, when they're a level 1 soul, they get into things like voodoo, black magic. They're trying to find ways to feel powerful about themselves, to feel that their gang respects them, kind of a thing. So this is their idea of how you get power. All right, they're very early in their stages. The level 2 souls are, okay, they're kind of getting a consciousness about this. Oh, you know what, the other thing too is, a level 1, they are learning about karma, and they're learning that, they're learning the consequences of if you kill someone, murder someone, steal from someone. They are going through a lot of the punishment of the acts that they've done in other lifetimes. But because their consciousness is so limited, they continue to do stupid things, and then they rack up more karma. Okay, then they pass into level 2 souls. Now they're getting a little bit better. They still have behavior from level 1, but their behavior is kind of changing. They're put into families that will help them to understand things more. But this is, these levels can be what we would call in our society like sociopaths, psychopaths. They don't have a consciousness yet. They haven't understood it yet. All right. So, but they're learning. Level 2 souls, they're learning. Level 3 souls they're advanced even more, and now they are more loving. They're probably, they're becoming nice people. They're becoming aware of other people and not hurting other people and not hurting animals, respecting the earth and everything about it. Now, this can take 50 lifetimes. Each one of these can take 50 lifetimes because we get stuck in these patterns, and we get it set up so that, okay, we're in a family system this lifetime that's going to break my patterns. Oh, thank God. Okay. But they get into this family situation and they get stuck. And it isn't enough to get unstuck. Okay, so they come back in another life, and then they come back in another life. All right. When we get to level 4, people like us we've moved away from religion. That doesn't mean that we don't have religion, because most of us start out with religion, but we also include spirituality. So level 4 souls are now reaching out. I want an understanding of spirituality. It's like religion isn't doing enough for me. I need to take it to the next stage. And for a lot of us, we combine spirituality with religion. We're now trying to understand what people mean when they say our oneness with God. All right, we're trying to understand what it feels like to be a child of God. This can take another 50 years because we can again get stuck in these old patterns. And all right, now, when she was explaining all of this to me, she was saying, over here in this community, this is level 1. Over here is level 2. Over here is level 3, over here is level 4. And I said to her, whoa, isn't that kind of confusing? And she laughed and she said, confusing? No. If a person comes out of level 2, that community, then, we know where their consciousness is. She says, what's confusing is on Earth, you all live together. And she says, but you all think that each other has the same consciousness. And you're so shocked when all of a sudden somebody from level 1 shoots somebody. And then, anyway, you're getting my drift, right? Okay. So she said, it's a lot harder here on Earth because we all live together and we're all trying to get along together, and yet we're all at different levels. Okay. Then, when we have graduated from level 4, that's when we go up to level 5. Now, she says most people in level 5 never go back to Earth. Because she says that's kind of like when you graduate from college. Would you go back to kindergarten just for a visit? No. Okay. You've taken it as far as you can. gotten your PhD. And no, I'm not going to go back and visit Earth. So most people, when they're done at level 4, they go on to the higher level of level 5. Now, here's the part I can't tell you is, what exactly do they do? You know, what is their consciousness? I'm not there yet, so I don't understand their consciousness. Then there's level 6, and then there's level 7. And she said level 7 is where we all have the same consciousness. We're all very happy. We understand our oneness with God completely. Now, here's something else. This minister that I know who recently died, she really fought death like you can't imagine. She put herself through more horrible things. And I said to her one day, "Are you afraid to die?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I don't want to just become one with the white light and never have my personality." Okay, you know what? You're never going to lose you. I mean, you're a unique. There's nobody else on this planet like you. Nobody. Even if you have a twin or a triplet. There's nobody else on this planet like you. And you are a part of God's family. And God doesn't make judgments. Not the God that I have come to understand. And so you are an important part of this whole picture. You might think you're insignificant, but believe me, you are not insignificant. And so all of us live, when we've gone through all the different levels, we live on the highest level, which is 7. And you're still going to have your quirky personality, okay? You're still going to be you. It's just that you will see things from a much higher perspective. Okay? Okay. Now, one other thing about people in level 5 is that level 5 people can come back to Earth if they want, but they don't have any more karma. They end up being almost like an angel on Earth. They're just these really sweet people that come into our life from time to time, and they help us out. You know, they remind us of the goodness of life. They're just, you know, content. I had a lady in my life like that. She was just like, we used to say to her, "Millie, where are you from?" I mean, because she was so sweet and loving, and she always had, I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to tell you a quick story about Millie because it's really sweet. And that is, we were all working for, this is before the barbershop experience, this is when I was still hiding in the psychic closet, and we were all working for an employment agency for recovering alcoholics. And the company was going broke, and it was Christmas time. They couldn't pay us. It was a terrible situation, and Millie was the main counselor, and then there was Paula and myself. And so cute. It was the week right after Christmas, in the week before New Year's, and Saturday night was New Year's Eve. So, and we really, I mean, we were all living on peanut butter and Wonder Bread, okay? And so Millie came out that day, and she was just like this. Okay, so Millie comes out, she says, "Come on, you two, I'm taking you to lunch." We're like, "You have money?" And she says, "Yeah, we're going to go downstairs to the cafeteria. We're going to get meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and gravy." And we're like, "Oh my gosh." But Millie, can you afford this? She says, "Ladies, she says, just think of this. It might be my last day on Earth. Of course I'm going to buy you breakfast or lunch." Okay, so we go down. We're just in. Every bite we're taking is like amazing, and we all hugged goodbye. And you know, she wished us Happy New Year. We wished her Happy New Year. And I remember walking away thinking, God, I wish I had her faith, because we said to her that day, "Well, what about tomorrow?" And because she was counting pennies out of her little coin purse to buy us lunch. And when I walked away from her that day and I was driving home, I said to God, boy, I wish I had the faith she had. I said, did you see that? She used every penny she had to buy us lunch. And I said, please make me like that someday. That night she passed away. Yeah, she did. And we couldn't believe it. It was just, she had such a knowing. Because she said to us that day when we were saying, Millie, how can you afford this? She said, girls, every day we're taken care of. You have to remember that. There's no guarantee any of us are going to be here tomorrow. And so she says, I saved for this lunch. And she said, we're all taken care of. And that was her words. And, okay, I'm sure Millie's up there on the 5th level somewhere. That's how she lived her life always, was just a faith, a knowing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is the last portion of this afternoon, which is where I'm going to open up psychically and I will answer some questions. I know I've talked for a really long time, but I always think that the talk is much more important than doing readings because I'm able to give you so much more information than just doing a reading for a person. But before I do that, before I open up psychically, does anybody have any questions from anything that I've said today? Yes. Steve?
Well, could I ask you this question, this personal question? For the last 7 years, my wife and I have channeled information from heaven, and we've tried to explore those higher regions that she discussed. We have 11 ebooks on Amazon, and to me they're very fulfilling. I love sharing the good news that you just described.
Okay.
I became a divorcee just 2 months ago. I cut off from my medium, my channel. I've worked with some other ladies to try to accomplish the same thing, but I don't know where I'm supposed to go now. I'm very interested in sharing this good news, but could you tell me what Spirit has to say? What is my function now?
She's going to answer questions
all right.
from the raffle.
Okay.
We don't want to take personal questions during the time.
Yes, ma'am.
You said, when you said no, your stomach was flat? I didn't understand that. When you
Oh, honey. Yeah, Dylan, I wish my stomach was Never. Okay, honey, what I meant was my intuition just didn't respond. That's what I mean. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I'm always saying my stomach is flat. You're right. What does that say? But, honey, when intuition just doesn't respond, it's flat. Yeah, it's not. Yes, sir. Yep, you.
Could you say something about level 6?
I'm sorry, honey. I can't see you, so I thought you were a man. I'm sorry. Level 6. I wish I could, honey. I'm not there yet. I have to learn more. I have to grow more. Yeah. Yes.
Do you do workshops?
I do. I teach psychic development classes, and I also have an online class for anybody that's interested in developing their abilities. You can go to my website, which is really easy, echobodine.com, and you can click on classes and learn about when the next ones are. But yeah, honey, I do, I was just talking to a friend of mine about coming to Chicago and doing like a 2-day psychic development workshop. Yeah. So yeah, you'd be interested? Okay. Cool. Oh, okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
When you work with disincarnating ghosts, what do you do to protect yourself?
You know what, sweetheart? I never even worry about protecting myself because ghosts don't like change, and that's one of the reasons why they stay in these homes. They don't want to go home with me. They don't, people say to me all the time, aren't you worried they're going to follow you home? No. I mean, they will hang out in a closet for 30 years before they'll move. And so I've never had a ghost follow me home. Well, that's partially because we get them to go into the light. But even the ghosts that have said to us, basically, screw you, I'm not going anywhere. And I mean, we can't force a ghost to go someplace. But they've never, ever followed us home. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have ghosts visiting me, but I have a rule in my house, and I have a teaching center in Minneapolis. And I have put up, I have a, one of those circle pictures, with the slash through. It's a picture of a ghost, and it's like, no, this is a ghost-free zone. You are not allowed there. And I never had any problems. So it's just, yes.
I was, I like how you talked about the levels, and I've been reading Gary Renard,
Yeah,
and he mentions, I think, in one of the books that he talks about, just like you do, that people reincarnate many, many times as we move through.
Yep.
He said that ultimately, though, all those levels still aren't the ultimate level. So I'm wondering, is that level 7 where now you're now back completely home? And is that what you're saying?
yes, but you know what, even when you get home, okay, so when we all die and we go over to the other side, usually we go to the basic level of 1 through 4. You know, we go there, we meet with the elders, we do a life review, and then at a certain time we move up to wherever we're at in our consciousness. Another quick story, my Unity minister had died, and he was a ball of energy, always really happy, and so I was writing, I think it was the book Echoes of the Soul, and at that point I said to God, okay, could you give me more information without me going over there? And all of a sudden, I felt this energy come into my office, and it was so startling, and so I thought, okay, so I opened up psychically, and I looked, and it was really weird because it was like there was somebody right next to me, but I couldn't see them. All right, just imagine a figure that looked like clear jello. I know. Okay, so if you've ever seen that movie, The Invisible Man, okay, that's what he looked like. And so he said, hello, Echo, and he sounded just like Phil. And I said, whoa, is that you, Phil? And he says, yeah, it's me. And I said, whoa, you look different. And he said, oh, do you want me to take form? I can take form. Do you want me to take form? Do you want me to take form? And I'm like, no, you just look like a bowl of clear jello. And he said, oh, I can take form. And I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I can just feel your essence so strong. And I said, where do you live? And he said, I'm level 5. And I said, wow, that's just really cool. And I said, do you come here much? He goes, please, it's like going to kindergarten. And I said, oh, okay. And then he says, well, if I can be of any service, you just let me know. He was gone. So he didn't tell me anything about level 5, but his essence, it was just all him. So I'm sure if I had needed him to take form, they can do that. They can take form and look just like they did in their last incarnation. Oh, and let me tell you another thing. See, there's just so much to tell you. Okay, so another thing is that when you're walking around in heaven, all right, so you're with all these folks. Let's say you're walking down the street and there's your neighbor from Germany, all right? Okay, what happens is when your neighbor from Germany looks at you, you will take on the appearance of what you look like in Germany. And that person, even though they may be completely different now, they will take on that look that they had in Germany. And that's how we recognize each other from our past lives when we're on the other side. Okay. Yes, sir.
How is a soul created if we're all eternal and part of God? How does it manifest?
Okay, what I've been shown is that God is this amazing energy, completely male and female. And I've seen, the picture that came to me was, it's like God reaches into itself and creates each soul. Okay, so each soul, each one of us comes from God, but to say to each one of us in the beginning of our creation, you are a perfect child of God. You come from perfection. That's like looking at a baby in a nursery and saying, you can become the president of the United States. The baby's going to look at you and burp. It's not. It has no consciousness of what you just said. And so it starts out its development. And so we go through all of this so that we have the same understanding and compassion that God has. So that we really get it, that we came from the source. And it takes us a lot of lifetimes. To understand perfection, we go through tons of stuff. That's what we do. Yeah. And in the end, we live back in that, but it is like the Garden of Eden to the max. It's just beautiful. And we're totally in harmony with each other. I mean, all the judgments, everything is gone. It's really something. Okay.
There's too many
yes.
You spoke about using a white handkerchief during healing.
Yeah, honey.
What do you do with the white handkerchief after? And is there any way to, if you don't have a handkerchief that you can use?
Yes. Okay, her question is, and don't worry about the questions because this seems more important. Okay, I had mentioned that I use white hankies when I channel. You know, I think there's a lot of reasons why. One of them is real basic. Sometimes in the summertime, when I'm channeling healing to someone, my hands get so sweaty and it, prevents them from getting wet. But the main thing is the hanky feels like it's a little barrier. Kind of like they're underneath, I'm up here, I'm not going to absorb anything from them. Now there's been times I've been in restaurants and all of a sudden, you know, somebody will say, oh my God, my head is killing me. Oh, and so I just grabbed the napkin, put it on my hand, put it on the back of their neck. Sometimes I've gone in the bathroom, gotten toilet paper, come out, put it on my hands. The thing that's so cool, let me tell you about this, is the hankies absorb healing energy. I had a client who came from Hawaii, she wanted to get a reading. Her husband, they were on vacation. Her husband didn't come because he was having a lot of stomach problems. Well, this is the first time that my guide said, okay, here's what you're going to do. He said, take 2 hankies, hold them while you're doing her reading, fill them up with healing energy, wrap them in a ball, put a rubber binder around it, and send it home with her. And she said to me, well, I'm not going to be home for 2 weeks. And I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before, so let's just see. She went home 2 weeks later. She called me that day. Her husband was in a lot of pain that day. She got off the plane. She unpacked the things. They put it on his stomach. She said for the first time in 2 weeks, has no pain. All right. He said to her, oh my, holy smokes, these are so hot. Okay. I had a nun drive over from Wisconsin. She had 4 kinds of cancer in her body. She had less than 6 months to live. And she said to me, I read your book, Hands That Heal. And she said, I feel like, well, what have I got to lose? I said, okay. So what I do in that case, Sister Ann was her name. So Sister Ann's laying on the table. I put hankies everywhere that I think my hands are going to go. And this, again, is my intuition guiding me. All right. So I stood and I channeled healing to Sister Ann for a good 45 minutes. At the end, my guide said, pull all the hankies together, send them home with her. Tell her to put these hankies on herself every day, and when they feel empty, mail them back, we'll fill them back up. Okay? So I did that. Sister Ann lived for 4 years with her hankies alone. She would send them to me when they felt empty. Then at night she would put them on her body, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, set them aside, and it was the other nuns that sent me back the hankies. They were all washed and ironed and said, you and God kept Sister Ann going for 4 years. And she said, thank you very much. Honey, oh my gosh, I have a program called the Healing Pen Pal program. And there's over 150 healers that I have taught. And what it is, I've taught absentee healing. It's called absentee healing, where it's just like with Jesus when that guy came to him and said, will you please come to my home and heal my son? And Jesus said, because of your faith, he is healed. Now go home. And so what Jesus did is he just visualized sending healing. And that's what I started doing when I was getting letters from people that had red hands that heal. And you guys, here's another really cool thing. Okay, so the book Hands That Heal comes out. I'm talking there about distance healing. You know, you can write to me and request distance healing. It's a free service. And, okay, so the mail is starting to stack up, and I'm just like overwhelmed. And so I just kept adding the letters to my desk. All right. Then one day I said, okay, you have to read these letters. And, okay, so I'm reading, take a letter from the top. I read it. Dear Echo, I can't thank you enough for sending healing to my back. I've been able to go back to work. I feel like $1,000,000. And I look at the name and I was like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Okay. So, another letter. Echo, thank you so much. I'm thinking, I don't know who you people are. Okay. Well, then when I get down to the bottom of the list, where all these requests are, there's their requests. I never even read the requests. And they were getting answered. So what came to me is, as soon as they wrote a letter asking for help, God started sending healing right away. So they didn't need me. But, you know, I asked my minister one time, why do people come to me? Why don't they just go to God? And he said, because people like a God with skin on. People like people to do this. And I have found that a lot over the years, where people are getting healed, people that have written letters. Remember in the Bible, Jesus says to people, are you ready to be healed? Okay, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I used to think when I was a little girl and I heard that story, I thought, well, that is just the stupidest question in the world. Who wouldn't want to get healed? But I have since learned, after doing healings on people for 50 years, that not everybody is ready to be healed. A lot of people need illness or disease to help them grow more, become more conscious. It helps their families to grow more. A lot of people don't feel worthy of being healed, so they don't come. They don't ask for healing. It's been an interesting journey to find out a lot about people when it comes to healing, and how few people really feel that they deserve to be healed. A lot of people say to me, well, God's the one that gave me this cancer, why would God heal it? And when I say to them, you know what, God didn't give you cancer. Your body has cancer in it, and it's something you're supposed to be dealing with. People are like, are you kidding? No, this came from God. That's how God is. God's a jerk, okay? Now that's their belief system. And so they're going to always believe it's God that's creating all of this havoc in their life. And so they're not going to go ask God for healing. So there's just been so many interesting things to learn about healing. And I bet you any second Diane's going to say, there's 2 minutes left. Oh, you have to stop talking. Oh, we have 7 minutes left. Okay. Yes.
I have a question. You mentioned your guide, John.
Yeah.
Have you noticed in your lifetime that you'll have a guide pop in and help you with something specific in your life that you needed to learn, and then they kind of pop back out?
Yes. Yes. We have regular guides. Everybody has at least 2 regular guides, and then different guides will pop in just for a specific reason, and then they'll be on their way. And sometimes it's just because that's their expertise. You know, the guide, John, was the guide who helped me write my big book of healing. And when the book was done, John said, I'm done. Now I'm going to reincarnate. And I was just brokenhearted because I just adored him. He was really funny, and he made my work really easy. And he said, you'll have another guide. He'll be here in 3 days. And but there's been, since then I've written other books, and different guides will come in and say, okay, I'm going to help you with this book, and but I'm not sticking around. And so, okay, I write the book, we get it done, they're gone. Yeah, they do that, honey. Yes?
Do you do phone readings?
You know, the readings that I do are all on the phone now. And it's mainly 2 reasons. Because when I'm doing it over the phone, I don't get exhausted afterwards. Usually if I'm in the presence of someone when I'm doing a reading, I just get worn out. Okay. The other reason is that I'm not seeing any expression on their face. So if I say to somebody on the phone, oh yeah, I see a job change coming, if they're like, okay, then if I'm in their presence, it's like, uh-oh, what did I just say? And it's like expressions from people can actually pull me out of being psychic and pull me into my human part that says, uh-oh, what did I just say? Did I upset this person? And so I have found it's a lot easier not to see any kind of anything and the clients on the other end. Okay, so back to your question. I hardly ever do readings anymore, hardly ever. And okay, let me say this, that I go through periods where, and right now I'm in a writing zone, so I'm just working on this next book, not doing any psychic work at all. And then when that book is done, whoop, then I'll just be as psychic as you can get, and I'll want readings, because it's like I want to use that energy to just, I need to do psychic work. So use your intuition, and when your intuition says, oh, she's back at work, then email me, and it's echo@echobodine.com, and then we can set something up. That's how it works. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, do you sleep like a regular person? Or
No. Okay. I love 3 o'clock in the morning because everybody in the world is asleep, and I'm not hearing all this chatter in my head all the time. My brother's the same way, and so he and I will usually be talking at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's wide awake, I'm wide awake. Oh, God, isn't it nice, bro? I can't hear anybody right now. And he's like, yes, it's like any there. Isn't it great? And then, so usually between 3 and 3:30, I go to sleep. My body requires 10 hours of sleep. Now, what I've been hearing from a lot of people, and this has gone on for years, people will say to me, well, actually, Bertie was the one who said, Echo, you do more healing work during your sleep than you do when you're awake. Many letters have come to me from people who say, when I went to bed last night, I prayed and asked you to come and heal me of my psoriasis or my arthritis or my whatever. And they say, and this morning I woke up and I have absolutely no pain. Some people say, I saw you standing over me, healing me in the middle of the night. Some people say, I woke up because I could feel hands on me and I saw your face smiling at me. I have no pain today. I think that's what's going on because, I mean, I used to get by on 5-6 hours, and now I've just gone from 9 hours a night to 10 hours a night. And when I wake up, I am in an absolute fog. I have no clue what's going on. So it takes me at least an hour just to kind of come to and, oh, okay, I'm back here on Earth. That's how we do it. Michael, same way. Michael's the same way. Yeah. My sister Nikki, I never finished that story. In her mid-40s, she had been a flight attendant for Sun Country for many, many years, 25 years, and now she's a medium herself. All this came on her when she was 44 years old. Yes.
Do you have any insight into somebody like Beethoven or Mozart? Are they geniuses, or do their guides?
No, they're geniuses, but you know, okay, so they develop themselves in that arena, and now they have to develop themselves in other arenas. So they've all been reincarnated, and
I guess the question was, do the guides give them the music, or do they create the...
Yeah, the guides can. You know, that's one of the things I saw, you know, that field of musicians. I saw a lot of them sitting and writing music, and I saw them hand a written song to an angel, and then I saw the angel coming down to earth, trying to send it to the musician. So a lot of it is channeled music. Yes.
Are extraterrestrials on the same level of consciousness as we are, and do they go through the same levels?
Extraterrestrials are us. We have lived on their planets, they have lived on our planets. It's all part of the bigger picture. We've all lived on different planets, but we just don't have a remembrance of it. And the reason we don't have a remembrance is just because if you think about it, we've got enough on our plate right now. I don't need to know that I lived on, you know, Zaroff in my 3,000th year here on Earth. It's like, oh my God. So That's why we just have today. That's why we have a memory of this lifetime. Well, most of us have a memory. And that's another thing is my memory is absolutely shot. And I sometimes wonder, is it because I'm in between both worlds all the time? Because I know that I am. I'm just not sure. I have to keep learning. I'm still learning. Yes, lady in the pink top.
Did you receive information about animals and their consciousness, and are they still with us in heaven?
Oh, without a doubt, they're still with us in heaven. Oh my goodness. You know what you want to do? If you're on Facebook, go to my Facebook page, which is Echo Lee Bodine. Scroll down just a little bit and you'll see a green picture. It is a, what would I call it? That's a segment that a LA production company came into Minneapolis and taped of myself and a policeman who took pictures. He took pictures with his 110 Instamatic at a car accident, fatal car accident. He took some pictures like he always did, and you can actually see the soul above the car, and you can actually see at the side door of the car the soul of a dog. And the people that knew the boy said that that was his dog that had died a year before the accident. So his dog actually came here to take the boy to the other side. So if you can get on Facebook, that was the thing that we wanted to show you today, but we couldn't figure out all the electronics, and so we weren't able to show you. But if you can, please try to go see it, because the pictures are absolutely amazing, and you'll love it. You'll just love it. Okay, I think because Diane's standing here, I think that means that it's time for me to say adios. Thank you. Thank you so much, Echo. It was wonderful. Every second was wonderful. We could have another 3 days, and I don't